even in the Gamma Quadrant, the old saying is true. You can't go home again here on V'ger Please. A vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
Am I your co-host? Am I computer simulation? You can never tell in Star Trek. It's tricky business. I'm Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek did we watch this week?
Season 3, Episode 2, The Search, Part 2. This is actually podcast 3 for us in this.
Yes, it is.
This guy was first aired October 3rd, 1994. Teleplay by Ira Steven Behr. Story by Ira Steven Behr. Robert Hewitt Wolfe. Directed by Jonathan Frakes. In-universe date 2371.
So, direct follow-on to The Search, obviously. As we discussed, really like setting up the plot for the rest of Deep Space Nine, and finally conveying one of the core principles of that plot, which is what is the Dominion and who runs it. And of course, you and I already knew the answer to this question, and now here the audience would be discovering it for the first time. In fact, it is Odo's people, the Changelings, who are the operators of the Dominion. And just as you had so adroitly pointed out as we were first discussing the Dominion over the last few weeks, they are people who operate from a position of being very scared of the rest of the galaxy, and therefore are obsessed with controlling it. And that's where we've set up our antagonist. That's what this episode's about. And I really like it. I really like how it's an introduction to like Odo figuring out who he is and what the Changelings are. I like it as a Cisco episode of his determination not to be basically fooled by a simulation, and even though he doesn't necessarily ever figure it out, he figures out that something weird is happening. And I really think that the Jonathan Frakes element of it helps specifically in that B plot, in that there's some interesting camera placement and other decisions that he makes that emphasize the otherness, the weirdness of the circumstances he finds himself in. So,
I completely forgot this was a Frakes episode until we sat down to record this. You didn't get the top-down shot, at least not that I remember. And that's the easy way to jokingly pigeonhole the Frakes directorial style. But he does do unhinged and wrong very well.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that you are pinning this as a Cisco episode, and I don't think you're wrong. But as I sat down and watched it, I saw it as a Odo episode.
Oh, it's primarily an Odo episode, for sure.
And it's crazy that they have a character-centric episode that is, again, Star Trek sets a low bar. And a lot of times it's like, okay, this is going to be the Miles O'Brien episode. And It's not a bottle episode, but, it's these limited engagement, whatever. Like, This is core plot. This is big fucking deal. This is huge world building. This is stuff that's going to be referenced heavily moving forward for the rest of this season's run, the series run. And for it to serve as a character development moment is a real pleasure. It's two great tastes that taste great together. You're able to inject this thing without losing any of your footing or any of the momentum. This episode touches on a very dangerous, sand trap. Listen, man, you sit down, you play D&D.
Right.
And then you have your first encounter with a doppelganger.
Yeah.
And for I feel like it's the fucking Dear Doctor episode. It is such a traumatic incident, usually, that, like, how can you as a rational person, if you're portraying these adventurers, ever take another step forward in life without doubting everything around you?
So this is a great thing for you to bring up, because Deep Space Nine goes out of its way from this point forward to have a lot of cool and interesting plots about your main characters struggling with exactly that impulse because of this.
Because they touch on it in Next Gen a couple times, and all the Star Trek properties do. Because when you have a opposing empire that has at least as much resources as you do with your magic space technology, primarily a fucking holodeck, every time you get knocked out or there is some sort of a traumatic experience outside of a controlled sphere of influence, you have to be paranoid. Like, am I in a holographic simulation? Am I being interrogated? Am I being jerked around for someone else's pleasure? Because it's so easy. The technology is just there. And you can't have your people, at least you couldn't have your people in Next Gen, constantly worried about, like, am I in the Matrix right now?
Yeah. So they navigate this really well. They have the characters have an appropriate amount of paranoia. You have enough circumstances where this is going to happen for different reasons, such that the paranoia is very well founded, and they find ways to mitigate.
I like that.
Yeah. And they find ways to mitigate the risk and basically have, the thing style verifications that people are real, right? Like, and there's a great, I think they really start doing this more at the very end of the season, but more into season 4, to be honest, of exploring these ideas. But it's not a sand trap for them, I don't think. I think they establish the paranoia of the fact that their enemies are essentially led by people who could be any person you meet at any time, and therefore a level of suspicion and how you detect that people are who they say they are, and both through observation and through actual like proof is an important part of the plot. And it's part of why I think the reason why they get very good at telling that story is because it's really the Dominion story. It's really the Changeling story, right? Like the female Changeling, again, and that's the only name you ever get for her, by the way. She's just the female Changeling. The story she tells about our people is no one ever trusts us, and we kept getting hunted everywhere we went. Why? It's because of exactly what you've described, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's difficult for a group of people to probably accept the idea that these things can be anything at any time. And Odo kind of gets a pass because Odo's only ever really been one thing, and everything else that he is like for a specific purpose, and he reverts back. He's budget. A person. He presents himself as a person. He has a very specific identity, a very specific appearance, and his abilities seem more like abilities rather than. You wouldn't think Odo would be like, "Oh, I'm going to become a deep cover, operative and start impersonating other people and cause chaos."
To be fair, he does seem to gloss over the 2 or 3 times, as far as we have seen, where people with pitchforks and torches have shown up at his workplace to lynch him.
It's true. That did happen at least once.
I believe at least twice. All the stuff about the founders and why the Dominion came to be, we can call that the DSFP, the deep self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
It's not a sand trap here because it's the story. It's a paranoia, and it is a focus that plays in great. Not only can these guys be anything at any point and just eavesdrop and spy and betray the trust that the eye provides, but again, there's technology just laying around that everybody has access to. Holodeck interrogation things. This fucking, what vault was it where everybody was in VR?
Right, like under the underground vault with a door that only locks out. Yeah,
they're like, okay, cool. Well, you found the Meta Quest R&D lab where we're now interrogating all of your friends in the Matrix. I call it a sand trap because if you bring these storytelling elements into a TV show that is not specifically about these things, that's a loose thread you're always going to have to, your character should always be worrying about. That's the sand traps. Anytime something seems a little off, you should start telling the computer end simulation or finding a way to escape the reality as you know it. and that's a hard ledge to walk back from. And we've talked about this a lot. Riker getting kidnapped by the kid, thinking it was the Romulans, and the Romulans actually doing it for real, and this and that, blah blah blah. So them putting an entire story into it, I think, feels good, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. And a large superpower that is hyper competent and morally okay with doing this shit to people, and how the Goody Two Shoes Federation is going to have to react to this dark mirror.
I want to remind you of how Liam Shaw put it when we were watching Picard, when he described the changelings. They can replicate a person on sight, voice mannerisms, speech patterns, but that's it. You, most of the time, can tell. Ask them a question they should know an answer to. Simple question, wrong answer, boom, changeling. Which is exactly what happened in that episode. Obviously, it was a bit of a blunt instrument that they used in the dialogue, but that's very much like the flaw in the process of they can look like things, but they don't understand. Like their ability to understand them is difficult. And I feel like that gives everything kind of this opening by which the heroes can triumph, and it makes sense, you know?
And again, that addresses shape-shifting concerns. But again, you've got these people that are underhanded as fuck, manipulative. Their entire life is around deception and, look at me being all founder racist, around deception and manipulation, and
because they want to control things because they feel threatened by everything.
And they've got their goons, again, running these VR simulations. It's a Borg. They've done a nice job creating a Borg threat without this thing being anything like the Borg, because the threat of the Borg is, I got you now, Jean-Luc Picard, and I'm going to assimilate you, and now Locutus is going to tell me everything you know. I've got you now, crew of the Defiant, or at least the important cast members, which, is everybody else on the Defiant dead?
No, they're all supposed to be alive.
Bullshit.
So that's a bit of a plot hole. We'll get to it later. But
I've got you all, and I've plugged you into VR. I can now run simulations to see how you guys are going to act, and I can clearly data mine your thoughts directly with this thing, because Quark is not physically in this episode. Nechayev isn't. Security evil guy isn't. But there is good enough Garak is not in this episode for real. But whatever this technology, this VR technology you have, is able to pull these simulations out of a group thought, and you've got pretty honest representations of these people and how they would behave at your disposal. So if they're doing that to you, they can do it to anybody. And it's not quite assimilation, but everybody is a info hemorrhage threat, whether they're being spied on by a changeling proper, or they're going through this hyper-competent interrogation.
That's true. That is the threat. That these guys are so technologically advanced, they basically just clowned the Federation when they showed up to negotiate, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not really interested in negotiating with you, but we're going to test to see what you are willing to accept in terms of subjugation, right? Yeah. Like that was what that was about, was you're not a threat to us, but we want to know that if we showed up and we basically demanded to be the senior partner in a relationship and then take control of the wormhole, would you violently oppose that?
They're running the numbers on them.
Yeah. And we're going to see what you do, right? We're going to present you with a circumstance that violates your sense of both strategic awareness and perhaps even like moral position. And how strong are your beliefs? Oh, pretty strong. You're willing to commit to violence. Very good. And we just wanted to know.
And it's not just one of you. It's all of you.
All of you. Yes.
Nobody anywhere in that staff is like, whoa, mate, we came here for peace. This is the cost of peace. Like, nobody's pumping the brakes. Everybody is 100. Every gas station employee is ready to burn this motherfucker down.
The Space Bucky's dies with us. It's going down. No one gets the delicious brisket if we're not allowed to be the ones selling it. So.
And not only are you guys so against it, that the manifestations of your groupthink are going to be the ones who incite it. And that's, I want to talk when we get into the actual simulation part. Like, Garak is basically the one that's like, hey, fuck this, man. There's option B for being bad.
What an excellent representation of Garak. Like, maybe this is a terrible idea and we should violently oppose it.
everybody should be very concerned that they have all come to the same consensus on this guy. Does he get to be at any point like, is Bashir be like, hey, we made a group conscious manifestation of you, and you were a real problem, dude. People respect you, but people have a real low opinion of you at the same time, morally. I guess that's what's killing him.
He would be delighted to hear it. Be like, oh, that's excellent.
I guess after we all found out you murdered a gull in the fucking cargo hold, that just set a base expectation. So the episode picks up, and it's Bashir and it's Sisko who have somehow escaped in a shuttle pod. It's 6 days later. Bashir appears to be sleeping, and Sisko is giving the most demoralizing log possible.
Before that, the teaser is actually the Odo Kira stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lore that gets dropped. That's all important. Odo was sent away as he was formed. So basically, when he was the changeling version of a child, we will find out later that he is one of 100 changelings that was sent into the galaxy with the intention that they would desire to return home to be able to inform the rest of the changelings as to the nature of solid life elsewhere. And then second, like you said, the changelings are Borg-like in that they link together in a shared consciousness, but are clearly individual beings that can and do separate themselves. So again, Borg-like, but not. And this great link of all of the changelings, which is this lake of them, right, allows them to share experiences and thoughts and understandings of things. And Odo has never experienced that before, and then only experiences that sort of blissful unity with the female changeling as a sort of taste of...
We need to give her a name.
Yeah, I mean,
Debbie.
Debbie. I like Debbie. She is a Debbie. You're right.
Yeah.
There's strong Debbie energy from her. From henceforth, for the rest of the years that we are doing Deep Space Nine, the female changeling shall now be referred to as Debbie. There's no Debbie in this show. There's no Debbie. That's not a name Star Trek uses. So I think that's in the clear.
I will offer as an alternative the leader of the doppelgangers, Queen Doppelpopolis.
Queen Doppelpopolis,
also known as Debbie
Doppelpopolis. Debbie Doppelpopolis.
Yeah,
we'll give them a prize if they can say it 3 times fast.
Mm-hmm.
So Debbie joins with Odo.
Queen Debbie also works. If
Queen Debbie joins with Odo, and he's home. He knows these are his people. This is a big moment for him. Which Kira actually has to at one point be, hey, you're home. This is a big deal for you, buddy. You don't have to be so standoffish. They don't know they're the founders, right? That's actually some of the tension is they found this planet. They don't know they found the founders.
To Kira, this is just another goofy Starfleet away mission.
Yep. Oh, cool. We found your people. That's neat. I gotta find.
There is nothing, no red flags at all here that she can justifiably, and that's great writing. Again, there's such a pedigree here of off we've been whisked to a goofy Gamma Quadrant planet, and here is apparently a character development episode for you. Nothing's really sticking out. We need to get the fuck out of here. I got to go form back up, and I think all my friends are dead, and God knows, the world is burning down out there, but this is very nice and chill for you, and you should be nice, and you should stop interrogating these guys. I'm going to call it right now, and I think this might be my contender for the weakest shit award for season 3. Because of the plot armor on the main crew, there is no fucking way that any of these people should have survived this, except for maybe Odo, or at least been able to leave this planet, because everything that happens in this episode comes off as the complete antithesis of everything that the founders are about.
The ending of this episode is so badly underwritten. I don't think I know of another episode of Deep Space Nine that could possibly compete with it in that regard. And it's always bothered me. like the idea that they're like in this facility and they're being, experimented on. Everyone's been captured, and like maybe like the Defiant's been captured too and not blown up and like being analyzed. Like I can buy all of that, but the fact that it ends with Odo just saying let them go, and she just is like, okay, everyone gets to go, take your ship and leave, without really like aside I guess like the threat of I will violently oppose you, and they don't have like a frame of reference for actually opposing each other, so they just let it happen. I can buy that too, but the way it all kind of ends up getting linked together is so lazy and so last second and so an afterthought that it just doesn't make sense. Like, okay, you mean everyone's alive, that the ship is still around, it's ready to go. I remember you getting the shit blown out of it. It's fine now. Did you fix it for them? Why? It sounds like you're like, what are you doing? What's happening? Why is it happening this way? And they just don't explain it.
Why, if you are a very... It's a great... I'm going to log this as a great episode. This is a fucking great episode. But this is takes whatever goofiness we have with the Maquis being unreasonable and unwilling to leave the border colonies. Like, the founders ball that up and throw it in the fucking trash and have you hold their beer. You're this skittish, terrified race that has been persecuted and abused, and you've gone through amazing lengths to subjugate all of the area around you. Everybody has to work through intermediaries. They have to talk to fucking voice answering machines on separate planets. You've got this invasive force you're terrified of, and you're trying to flex on it as hard as possible to scare them away. And you're going to bring these guys that are here to like hunt you down, basically, and they want to talk and be nice over it, but you're going to bring it back and you're going to run this fucking game on your homeworld, and you're going to reveal your position and how vulnerable you are. And then you're going to let them all leave. Like, the VR interrogation camp is a great idea. I love it. That's something you do on a space station. That's something, Species 8472 was running, these holodeck training simulations over. You don't bring it to your spread wide and run the stuff up your own ass.
So I will say that is not the part I find underwritten, because actually that specific complaint you just made, they do address it. Like everything you just said, they do address it. So I can't fault them on that, right?
All
like,
right.
That's not a plot hole. In fact, there's a direct line from that moment to one of the bigger moments of later on the season. But to me, what's underwritten is you've clearly just made a decision to like capture these people and like run tests on them and that sort of thing. And the confrontation where Odo makes the decision of, I'm not staying with you, and I'm going to leverage the fact that I'm one of you to get my friends free and for us to get the fuck out of here, needed about so much more development in this episode. Because it just happens at the end and nothing is explained as to why it is the way it is and why it's being permitted to happen so easily.
Short of your culture having a deeply ingrained religious tradition that every single person in your culture gets one wish, and it can be for anything, but you only ever get one. And Odo says, I'm using my wish that you told me about to let all of my friends escape scot-free. And her being, boy, I sure am upset, but that's our religion, or that's our deeply ingrained tradition. So you're one get out of jail card. Like, fine. That's the only fucking reason. We won't kill your friends, but they're staying here in perpetuity. We can't possibly afford to let the secret location of this Death Star exhaust vent go out into the universe. You're going to stay with us. Your friends are going to... We're not going to kill them. We're not going to torture them, but you guys can't leave. Huge plot hole, and...
but yeah, again, like, that's not a plot hole. But, yeah, it's not. I can't tell you why, but it's not.
So I thought you meant the plot hole was not that, like, oh, we would want to do this in our backyard. I don't know, because we get off on watching suffering or whatever. You're saying that the fact they just let them all go scot-free is not a plot hole. With knowledge of where...
Correct. It is not a plot hole that the knowledge of the location of the founder's home planet is now a known quantity.
Maybe I predict that the home planet is a decoy then, and that this is another layer of psyops, is to give them a false target to strike.
You will find out.
So it's 6 days later. The shuttle's in bad condition. Oh my God, we're going to die. And then suddenly they stop and the door opens up, and who is it but the two people you left to their death? And instantly I'm like,
Suspicious, isn't it?
I smell doppelgangers. Maybe I'm cheating because I know the founders are shapeshifters and, this is a fucking thing. But, like, this really seems like it's too good to be true. Doesn't it, Benjamin?
Well, doesn't you knew it had to be too good to be true when Admiral Nechayev is here and she's being nice to you. Like that might be the only... If Garak if everyone has a real low opinion of Garak collectively for the version of him that showed up in the simulation, man, like Admiral Nechayev, like she's just gonna sell the Federation the fuck out. That's apparently what everyone thinks of her.
I thought it makes sense because she is a realpolitik lady. They know what the power level of the Dominion is, and I can see her being unscrupulous enough to be like, yeah, this is a good deal. We should take it, and also we can fuck over some other longtime enemies.
I just like how she's randomly there too, right? Like she wasn't in the search part 1, right? Like just, hey, buddy.
She is known to just show up on a whim and have a conversation in an office and dip. So again, I fully believe that she is a step
spy master. I mean, you would expect her to kind of operate that way.
Sure.
This is unfortunately, by the way, the last appearance of Admiral Nechayev in Star Trek. So, yeah, she has to show up in Deep Space Nine again after this.
How?
So, I know.
Did they short her on pay? Did she have a fucking an Ensign Cutler experience?
No, she's actually I said this at the time that we were watching Picard season 1. The actress who plays her, Natalia Nagulich, remains an active actor to this day, doing things. So I have no idea why it is that she would have been essentially cut off, and like not just doing nothing either. Like she shows up in real stuff, like stuff that's still on TV, like Chicago Med and that sort of thing. Like recently, she regular roles on television. So
when these actors start getting political and they say things that divides an audience or puts them at odds with showrunners, I mean, it's the kiss of death. They need to learn how to shut the fuck up. Very clearly, this lady opened her mouth and got real about crocodiles and alligators.
Obviously. And
really
said something that pissed Rick Berman off, I guess.
Rick Berman, just that was it for her. She killed her. She became they burned her.
I mean, she's blacklisted. The fact that Admiral Nechayev does not show up during the Dominion War arc at all is a fucking crime to me. Like
that might be the weakest shit.
That is actually the weakest shit. Is that this is the last appearance of Admiral Nechayev in all of Star Trek. And I remember when we brought it up when we were watching Picard season 1, because I'm like, the Admiral sheer fucking hubris. Ugh. It's like the only way that this scene works if that's Admiral Nechayev giving Picard a ration of shit. Like, how the fucking dare you show up in my office and start making fucking demands? She'd be the only person I would accept this attitude from out of all of the Star Trek canon. And it's like, you could have got her. She's still working. Like, there's no excuse for you not to have done it. And she was only in her 60s at that point. She's in her 70s now. But yeah, like yeah, go ahead.
Kira Nerys should have had some sirens going off in her head, because for her, this is just a standard Star Trek Starfleet goofy away team mission of character development. Like, there needs to be a dilemma for her to deal with. And like, oh, we're ultra secretive. We don't want anybody to know where we're at. Here you are, seeing everything. You're not allowed to phone home. Like, at what point should she be like, oh, fuck, they're going to kill me, Oda? Either I'm not going to be able to leave this thing, or they're going to kill me, and I am not a peaceful space explorer. I'm a dirty terrorist turned politician. Please help me live, Goo Man. Because I see Queen Doppelpopulus over here not saying anything about what's for dinner for me.
Yeah, I don't see any replicators, and I'm not sure any of this is edible. So
that's the other thing. So they get a little deeper in. Like, let's talk about the Odo plot real quick. He meets the founders. They pop out. Do you think that they are assuming these forms to deal with him nicer?
Yes. It's the only way they can deal with him because they're not permitting him into the Great Link.
I mean, choosing to look like him, or do we think that this is just how changelings like to look? Because clearly they can do human perfectly, or they
can. But I think that they're making that decision on the basis of wanting to clearly identify themselves as part of. We're going to meet other changelings.
Maybe we already have. Who knows?
And when they're going to look, when they're in like generic form, they look like Odo. So I think you could go as far as to say that changelings have a kind of default version that looks like how Odo looks, because it does. We do know, as part of the lore of being a changeling, it takes a tremendous amount of effort to look like something else. It can tire you, it can exhaust you, it can cause you to have to remain in a liquid state, right? Odo, perfect example. And so perhaps the default state, as a consequence of it not having tremendous detail, is easier for them to maintain for a
low resolution mode.
Yeah. Low res mode preserves my processor,
I get better battery life off of this this portable mode. It's the best that Odo can do, but the other ones recognize, like, yeah, this isn't a hard flex. We can do this easy. They come out, they talk, hey, welcome home. Hang out, we want to talk to you. You get a little bit of hand jive going where she goos it. Debbie gel goos with him and gives him a little taste of Ponfar, I believe. I don't.
It's more than that. It's like it's a sort of like unity of minds and emotions that isn't sexual in nature.
Yeah, I'm just joking around.
All kind of it's important because like a lot of Odo's like character drama from this point forward has to do with that he does actually really want to be with his people, but there's really reasons why he isn't, and the biggest one is Kira. And he has a very different relationship with Kira that develops, obviously, as they are indicating here, starting in this episode. And that's more of a standard romantic relationship that it has all the elements of that. And then what the changelings through the female changeling offer him to tempt him has to do with the sort of unity of spirit that is otherwise kind of unable to be translated to a solid. And that's part of like his, like, I have to process all of this. Like, who am I? What am I trying to do? How much do I want that versus how much I want this other thing? I
really like with the founders that there is a telepathic component without it being real telepathy.
Yes.
That there is a choice that they can make to share themselves with a collective, or they can isolate and make these intentional and discrete decisions on their own. Some lore gets dropped that we weren't expecting you to come back here for 300 years?
Correct.
Which means it took 300.
We did not know about the wormhole either. This is a surprise to them, which is very interesting.
Well, I mean, it's core to it. You said that they are operating in a timeline that is not their own for this. 300 years for you to return, which would have meant 300 years that we sent you out. So Odo is a child, but Odo is very old. He's probably been kept in some sort of suspended animation. Odo is genetically engineered at a certain level, programmed to want to return here. So he is not a pure changeling. And to what degree the changelings have mastered technology, because also interesting, this rogue planet that they're on is not their actual homeworld. They have traveled the galaxy, they found persecution, and they have retreated to this place, seemingly.
Like, look what you just did. You just solved that thing you said was a plot hole, and why it's not a plot hole. It was there all along. You said, like, why would they allow the fucking Starfleet people to leave with knowledge of this location of this planet?
I mean, even if this is just a colony, that's still a lot of goo people out in the lake waiting to get nuked.
Guess we'll see.
Again, I mean, maybe it's a hologram. Who knows? But he was genetically engineered to go to this place. And towards the her surprise at the lines that he has developed along The value she places on the joys and the deep need to shift into other things to understand them.
Correct.
Which serves as the antithesis of Odo. You say he calls it, that he refers to his, that he regards his shape-shifting ability as a tool.
Correct.
I would say this is a guy who was groomed to resent it. His shape-shifting was reduced to a party trick. And again, it's funny because the real truth here is shape-shifting in 1994? 5?
4.
In October 94, still expensive technology to manufacture.
Oh, it is.
So your guy who can do the thing, not wanting to do the thing, real great for the budget.
It is an important episode in that Odo has his first kind of experience in having a positive shape-shifting moment.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, I really became something. I get it. I'm starting to get it, you know? Why it's special and why it's cool and what it kind of gives you this insight. I actually felt like the thing I was. And also conveys why other species don't like the changelings, is that you become other things, but you're not actually that thing, and it violates the sense of propriety that you have over what you are, because this interloper species can show up and be you. Even if they don't have ill intent right off the rip, it just feels this is what the pitchforks come from, right?
And again, if your species value is to learn by duplicating, then you are going to do that frequently. You're going to think it's okay, and you're going to come into conflict with other people who are like, that's an invasion of who I am. And as we've seen, other species that are species of the day, frequently very unreasonable and quick to violence.
Yes.
But she makes asks of him that he gives her all the allowance in the world. If it was his father, if it was gold ducat, if it was a child saying, turn into a rock, turn into flowers, show off the party trick, he'd put a hard foot down. But when she's like, no, you need to, this is actually important stuff, he's like, all right, I'll try. So she leaves him in this garden, and he just spends time as a rock and as flower, and he's rolling his eyes. He's doing this thing on good faith, and he very clearly still resents it. And it's a great beginning of a deviation of that. Odo is just not compatible with what's going on here.
Right. Or at least not yet. Right. Which is what the female changeling ultimately leaves him with, of you will miss us. This isn't over for you. This is the beginning of you understanding what you are, not the end.
Mm-hmm.
You have greater context now, but your mind is going to start to think about all of this so much more as you are separated from it.
And you've had a taste.
You've had a taste not only of the unity, but also of being a shapeshifter being a good thing, right? And Odo, obviously, as a character, is defined by the fact that his species' overwhelming desire to control things to enforce order, which makes sense for a species of people that change into things and find form, is instead having developed through the lens of actual justice, which is different because it has a moral frame of reference, which is the key difference, right? The changelings do not have a moral frame of reference. They are amoral people, right? And that's they don't really care about the actions they take as it relates to their goal. Those actions can be individually good or individually bad, individually evil, individually positive, but to them that part of the calculus doesn't matter. All that matters is the control. And Odo, because he grew up around people who cared about the concept of justice, came to this predilection towards order instead was manifest through this desire for justice. And that made it so that he could actually fit in with people, right? He has a moral code.
Grew up around suffering. And I think that's going to be the driving force of the the nurture he grew up in, was watching this suffering of the Bajorans under fascism.
Right.
This is a story about the dog catching the car and getting exactly what he wanted. Jump back a couple episodes to when Gul Dukat got kidnapped, and he starts getting shit, and he's like, I wanted an army of deputies. I wanted this police state. I wanted everybody under CCTV, and I wanted this draconian rule.
Right.
And now he gets all of that. Hey, you're from a race that we want full control. We've got the Jem'Hadar. We are willing to do terrible things to impose an order. And he is forced to look in this mirror and say, okay, this is too far. They were right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's such a great character development moment for me, because like it lets people back hard off of core principles when they're confronted with like, this is what the end product is. I'm not all right with this. Now I've got permission to really start going off the rails and doing some new and exciting character development stuff, because I've been shown like the old way is not feasible.
And when, again, we are spoiled because of Picard season 3 in a way, but it allows us to have a conversation about like where this goes in the end, right? With with Odo's fate and what he does. And so much of his story from this point forward is him eventually, after several years, coming to the conclusion that the only way there can be a future for the changelings is if he gives them his sense of justice. Right? And the Picard season 3 plot has to do with him Odo having dimed out to Worf because they're friends. That, yeah, I got a problem. I have some changelings who've decided that they don't want that. And they're coming for you. Right? Like how he knows. Odo's name doesn't come up. He simply says, someone in the Dominion told me this. It's only one person who would have. And so like the fact that it starts here with him being like getting a good look at what's going on and saying, oh no, I don't think this is for me. Like I think that there's a problem here and I need to go back and I need to figure out who I am and why I feel so connected to these people who aren't my people and why I find what you're doing to be so off-putting.
Kira is like, well, I need to talk to Ben. I got to report to Starfleet. Even though I've been explicitly told don't send any messages out of here, and I'm not asking the questions about when are they going to kill me, she goes back to the shuttle. She starts trying to work on it. I like when she goes back to the garden to like check in, and she just starts saying her intents to like her intentions of disregarding all of the rules of the planet. And it's like, this is a garden where they practice shape-shifting and being rocks and trees. Like, is anything in this fucking garden real? Do you have any
Are they just all changelings just watching you? Yeah.
Hey, Odo, I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to go behind the barn and smoke. You want to go smoke and do heroin? And Labor's like, what? You hearing this, bitch? They just told her don't do any of this stuff. What is wrong with her? How dumb is she?
I mean, she does make the concession that she's just going to use like she's not going to
tricks, yeah.
Well, she's going to do dirty terrorist tricks, but specifically like I'm not going to tell Sisko where we are. I'm just going to send this message out, and when he's going to send a message back out, and I'm going to be able to detect it, and I'll know where he is. So it's like she's trying to make a concession to, because again she thinks she's on a goofy ass Starfleet mission at the moment of like these people don't want to be found. Respect.
I'll respect that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, I have like shit I got to go take care of, lady. Sorry.
Maybe in a war. I don't know.
Yeah. Like these Jem'Hadar guys are fucking us up. I don't know if you know anything about this, but it's not good out there.
Computer's like, hey, you remember when Sisko got stuck on the plantation? There's one of those things buried. You should go look around. Turn it off. And she's like, cool. A door. Why would there be a door here? Not a door.
So let's briefly discuss the B plot, the simulation. Beyond what we've already said, which is all of our main cast are 100% in on violence is the answer, and it is fun, including Sub Commander Tarul. Sad to see this is her last visit. She's actually part of the team. She just gets got as part of the simulation, and he's kind of pissed about it when she wakes up, and unfortunately it's the last you ever see of her. The concept within the simulation is that the Dominion has shown up to negotiate, and the Federation has taken the position that they are willing to ally themselves with the Dominion to essentially become the chief powers of the Alpha Quadrant at the expense of the Romulans, and the Bajorans, who evidently make it clear that they're not interested in Dominion Suzerainty and are going to fight against the Dominion. And this is all within the simulation. And this so morally... Oh, and the Jem'Hadar have the run of Deep Space Nine and whoop up on O'Brien and put him in the
Hurt
sick
locker.
bay. Yeah. And so all of this adds up to, this is obviously not right, and we need to blow up the wormhole.
I'm curious what degree of programming they've put into this thing. Like, if they were like, we're just going to give them a sandbox and let their minds make it up. Like, we're going to build in parameters that here is this proposed alliance, and they can see how hard we can jerk them around. Let their minds fill in the rest. And if they're just like, okay, here's this basic simulation we're going to watch, and like it suddenly get crazy fucking complicated, and they're like, whoa, these are some real fucking drama queens.
What's going on?
Who's this Garak guy?
It's like, that's how they find out about, who is this man? This guy's going to be a problem. Like,
he's screaming at his boss. This guy's unhinged as fuck. They're shooting people. Like, we were just trying to go in and get some feels. These guys are like right into terrorism.
Just right in.
These guys are like a TV show. This is crazy. It's very Dumb Tater Boys vibes, right?
That is true. There's some Tater Boys vibes to this. I would agree. So there's not too much necessarily to talk about that part of the plot, because it is ultimately just a dream. It is a big Deus Ex Machina at the end, and they unplug them. So none of it matters, except to the extent that it reveals that the Dominion, their preferred method of, quote, diplomacy, end quote, is basically to subjugate people through deals that they can't refuse. And they're trying to get a sense of, like, is Federation willing to accept that kind of deal? No? Okay, that's useful to know, right? And like, how would the Romulans react? Okay. You know, like they're just
running numbers.
They're QAing their assumptions about people. That's all.
It is very Westworld. This is DS9 world.
Yes.
They got the host, they got the violence. They at no point ever suspect that they are in a bizarro world. Even though Garak is like, basically like, psst, everybody's crazy, but maybe a little too crazy. Like, simulation Garak's like, he's this isn't real. I can't tell you it's not real. The problem is that Ben Sisko doesn't speak in italics well enough yet. He's still trying to put some dots in that. But
are you saying that fake Garak is so powerful that even in a fake version of himself, he's trying to help them? Like, even a fake version of me keeps it so real. I know this isn't real.
Yeah, like the fucking guys monitoring this should be like, does fucking NPC just tell them that they're in a simulation?
Who is this Garak? I need eyes on Garak. Who is this Garak?
Are we running an outdated version of Interasoft? File a bug report. We should not have NPCs telling the victims that they are in the middle of a improbable and unrealistic simulation. This is bullshit. I saw what he did there. A lot of my notes I took seem not worth mentioning because it's a lot of suspicion that they're in a simulation and interesting stuff happening that doesn't matter because these guys aren't real.
I mean, you know, well done. You picked up on it. You win the prize, Peter. You win the prize. That's good. That's good.
I like Quark, who is again fake Quark. And he has some good insight into the Jem'Hadar, where he's like, I'm excited for this because these Jem'Hadar guys seem like they have a gambling gene. We know that Odo has been genetically modified. Have the founders genetically modified anyone else? Is this clever foreshadowing that the founders are jerking these Jem'Hadar guys around with some, you know, because if they like control, if you've got like your primary body, right? It's you do what the founders want or the Jem'Hadar. It's not, the Jem'Hadar aren't a collective force of you know, this alien and that alien is a singular species for attack. So like, have they been subjugated with like genetic engineering? I would say that seems like it's within the wheelhouse. So Quark talking about genes here, very interesting.
It's your ability to pick up on things, my friend, never ceases to amaze me. And that's all I
Anything
can
coming
say.
out of Quark's mouth is important. And that's why we
Even
said a while
fake
ago,
Quark.
can you afford to ignore Quark? The answer is no.
Never.
He is a storytelling vehicle. I would say that the Jem'Hadar going out of his way to shove Miles down. So again, it makes me wonder what degree is the simulation enabling insurrection from the Starfleet people? How much of it is just their spirit and their subconscious projecting itself? Sad that even the last view of Nechayev isn't even real Nechayev.
Yeah, it's fake Nechayev.
It's everybody's poor opinion of Nechayev. And again, I do buy the fact that she's like, cool, that there is this, as we just saw in Star Trek 6, there is parts of Admiralty and stuff that are like, great, we will take advantage of a bad situation to vanquish foes and improve our own standing. But there's prices.
So, in the end, Odo, they don't let, again, this is where it kind of comes weak. Like, they don't seem particularly interested in preventing Kira from finding the door and telling Odo. Like, there's no interference, really. So maybe I need to revise my opinion entirely about it being weak shit. Maybe it is that they knew Odo wasn't going to be ready yet and he was going to want to leave, so they just made it easy for that because they had plans for this information getting out. They just find the place, and the female changeling puts up this token resistance of, you can't, you belong here, and yeah, we're the founders, by the way. That's who your people are. They're the villains. And Odo makes his decision like, I'm leaving with my people, which are them, not you. And there's a line of the line of dialogue of, no changeling has ever harmed another.
They also don't apparently have changeling jail. That's a technology they haven't unlocked yet.
Correct. They don't even really have the concept of civil war, civil conflict, disagreement. So they don't know what to do except to allow Odo to leave. That's kind of like the impression. But
it's a Geth-like quality. They have a group consensus that they can meld into, but there's still that individuality. Geth from Mass Effect, which we haven't really talked about Mass Effect in a while, but we're big fans of Mass Effect.
Yeah, we are. It's the inheritor of Star Trek in many ways. For
absolutely,
the mid
before Picard 3.
It is
before the Orville.
Yeah, it was from that late 2000s to mid 2010. It was Star Trek.
And it's heavily influenced by Star Trek, and I wonder if maybe that's some of the Geth right there. Again, this, we've always looked at it as a AI threat, but this communal threat. I liked lots of fun special effects tricks here. Odo being able to lockpick doors all of a sudden. What's behind the door? Why would they put a door here? Oh, it's the caves, the greatest resource of Star Trek. Of course you'd put that behind a locked door. You don't want anybody stealing your caves.
Absolutely not.
That's the next yeah. We're gonna have to start putting that in a reoccurring character.
I almost feel like the door was there specifically so that Odo would find it and know that they wanted to make it obvious to him and Kira. It's like I'm starting to be of the opinion that maybe this was all just like essentially kabuki theater for him.
One big psyop.
Yeah, just like one big psyop for him, because they knew, like, once they knew that the wormhole was there and they knew Odo was there, because they did, because Eris saw him in Jem'Hadar. They knew he was on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
That they were like, okay, we'll set up this whole thing and we'll just kind of see what he does. And if he wants to leave with them, that's fine, because we don't care. Because these people aren't actually a threat to us.
All right, so let's look at it this way. They're plugged into VR and they're running numbers on Starfleet, and they are running conditional experiments on them. Why wouldn't they be doing the same thing to Odo? And all of this is a big simulation, and here's an opportunity to stay with us, or you can it's a choose your own adventure book, or you can go past the door and potentially leave. You're the first of this experiment we did, sending children out to scout. You're surprised, motherfucker. you're still a lab experiment. You're back on Bajor and you're under a microscope and we are watching what you're doing.
Right. Like there's a tension in that they don't want to act against him directly because they don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they're going to contain him, you know?
Except they don't contain him because they just let him leave. I also like the throwaway line there that apparently while they were escaping the burning wreckage of the Defiant and he's like under this compulsion to leave, he had the wherewithal to like run back to his quarters and grab his bucket.
I need my bucket. Mm-hmm. It's my precious bucket. We're not escaping without it.
Is this bucket a one of a kind, or do you think he's open to just replicating new buckets as needed? Like, ooh, this thing's getting gross. I'm gonna treat myself to a new bucket.
Yeah, I think he just cleans his bucket. I think the bucket is precious.
Yeah, but so the idea of leaving the bucket, this materialistic bucket,
it is his bucket. It is the bucket. I mean, that is a correct way to describe how it's treated.
Yeah, I mean,
there's never a second bucket. There's only this bucket.
So he went back to the burning room to get his bucket.
His one possession.
He must have been real fucking pissed off when Nog and Jake filled it with oatmeal.
He was.
Yeah. You have filled my entire house with oatmeal. Well, so again, all the other stuff, like you're free to leave. We're going to put up token resistance. This Vorta guy, real lippy. Him like, yeah, you are Odo's like, I'm not okay with this. He's like, well, that's a problem, but you're not my problem. And yeah, like your whole crew is alive. As savage as we are, we killed everybody on New Bajor, but every one of you, every hair left untouched. Also, you can have your missing crew members back. And you guys are just free to zip off. So I have to view this entire fucking thing as a trap. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense and it's going to be weak as shit. Next. Great episode, though.
It is.
I loved
it. It is. And I've come to the conclusion that my earlier words that this is weak as shit is actually wrong. And I think you'll agree, ultimately.
All right. I'm certainly willing to put faith in this writing team that it all makes sense. So it appears too good to be true. And after everything everyone just went through here, the paranoia needs to start coming in spades. And they need to doubt everything moving forward. They need to doubt every experience. They need to doubt everything they see and touch because this is a race built around jerking people around, literally. Next episode is going to be the House of Quark. There's Quark in a New Jack Neelix coat. He's got a Klingon hottie. Teleplay by Ronald D. Moore. Well, there's your fucking Klingon connection. Story by Tom Benko, directed by Les Landau.
This episode rules. This is like peak Quark content. This is him at his most heroic. It's great. I'm a huge fan of the Ferengi content of Deep Space Nine. It's polarizing. People have opinions about it. I think we've very much enjoyed the Ferengi content.
Absolutely. This keeps giving.
It does. So this has got some key Quark content in it, and it is the most helpful episode. I think it's from this point forward that they kind of really realize that Quark is a hero. You know, like they've kind of had elements of that already with his, Cardassian resistance girlfriend and some of the other stuff he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like, he's going to do the right things for the right reasons. And ultimately, even if he is going to try to make a buck along the way, they've decided to orient his character more in that direction.
Oh, he's going to morally sell out, huh? Join Team Good.
He never joins Team Good. He just becomes like a co-belligerent of Team Good. but it's still like, I love this one. I can't wait to watch it. So thank you for watching Feature Please. Thank you so much, all of you out there who have joined our Patreon. And like we've talked about, we're going to be doing Hellraiser next for that. Yeah. Star Trek 6 is already there.
So Hell yeah, Razor.
And we'll see you all later.